In the world of source units, there certainly are a lot of players, but one brand has really been showing a lot of effort in not only improving their awareness, but also their brand name. We're talking about Boss Elite, a brand that's been in the game for so long, but in recent years has certainly made a name for themselves within the source unit category. Today, we've got their product specialist joining us, and we're going to discover what is ticking over at the Boss Elite camp. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Boss Elite source units. And it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. We're talking Boss Elite, and if you've been paying attention, these guys have been putting out some serious products with all the features that people are looking for. What's more, they're doing it at such an aggressive price point. What is going on at Boss? Well, we're going to find out because their campaign these days is reading Rethink Boss Elite. Well, let's find out what that's all about. We've got both Colin and Jason from Boss joining us today. I'll start with you, Colin. What can we expect to talk about on today's show?
Thanks, Ben. We're super excited to be here and to tell everybody why they should be rethinking Boss Elite. From our head units and so much more coming. We can't wait to show you.
Colin, I can literally feel the energy in your voice, so we're not going to waste any time. But first, we have to, of course, offer an opportunity to our partner, SiriusXM, to remind our dealers out there why it's always a great add-on sale. And when we come back, let's rethink Boss Elite together. Don't you dare go away.
Hi, Paul Truman here with SiriusXM. We reached out to some of our partners in the industry, and here's what they had to say.
I can't say more or enough about just what it means to have our unit working with SiriusXM. It's like we're there now.
The SiriusXM service is something consumers want, right? So it's Paul.
That allows a consumer to listen to either podcasts, entertainment, sports, all at their fingertips. It's all about engagement, and that's what SiriusXM provides.
SiriusXM is a huge component in a vehicle nowadays. Consumers expect that technology to be available both in our OEM system as well as the aftermarket upgrades that they're applying to their vehicle.
Alpine and SiriusXM, through our electronics, are able to offer the consumer on the aftermarket side SiriusXM 360L, which is an expanded platform for SiriusXM. And it's really been a beneficial relationship for us with SiriusXM.
As a dealer, just remember, we don't compete with anybody else. We are absolutely one of the best profitability accessories you can add to any head unit that is SiriusXM ready.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. So we're going to continue our conversation. We've got Colin Ross here joining us from Boss Audio. Now, I'm just going to get right to it, Colin. There is a lot of rumblings coming out of the Boss Audio camp. You guys have been doing so many changes. We're seeing you at shows. There's a story here, and I want to get the details on it. What have been some of these changes or recent modifications or game plans that are coming from the Boss Elite camp?
We are totally revamping the line, the brand and everything, but we're starting with bringing in the right people from the industry. We started about a year ago. We brought in Matt Delgado as our national sales manager and director. We have the senior sales trainer, my partner here on the show, Jason Digos, a UX UI designer, Hikaru Waku, who has come from lots of industry, as well as product designer, Jared Bells. We have brought all these people in-house so we can get things done a lot faster, a lot more efficient. And when we get questions or we get tips or tricks from our dealers and installers, we're here listening and we're ready to go.
See, I knew it, Colin. There is a lot of movement happening over there. So congratulations on the acquisition of all these great team members, certainly a couple of veterans in there. But let's talk about the brand and the advantages of being a Boss Elite dealer. I mean, what are you doing to separate yourself? Because let's be honest, this is a jammed category with recognized names that have been in the industry a long time that specialized in this category. So I'd like to hear in your words what Boss is doing to try to separate themselves from the group and really become not only a player, but potentially a leader in this category.
Yeah, Ben, we're making a lot of moves internally with the company. First off, like always, Boss Elite is a MAP protected line. So you can rest assured that your Boss Elite products on your shelves are protected. We're also loading all Boss Elite with a ton of features compared to regular Boss. Features that you're not going to find with the regular Boss. So Boss Elite is going to be elite compared to Boss and a lot of other companies out there, as well as a industry leading 3-year warranty. So you could pass that along to your customers to rest assured that their unit is going to be working great whenever they need it.
All right, that was Colin Ross talking to us about some of the major changes and the things that you need to know that's happening at Boss Elite. So you heard Colin mention a lot of features. Well, if we're going to be talking about features and techie kind of stuff, we're going to knock on the door of industry veteran Jason Digos, who's standing by. Now, Jason, happy to have you back on the show. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce what your role now is at Boss.
Hey, Ben, glad to be back on the show. Thanks for having me. I am here at Boss Audio now, and my current role in the company is the senior sales trainer. So I'm here to share with you some of the really cool and unique features in the new head unit lineup. So what I have here next to me is the floating 14-inch screen. And, the first thing is, it's pretty massive. It's also available at 12, 10.1, a 9-inch, and also a 7-inch double din. So the advantage there is we've got a lot of different sizes for our dealers, and that way they can select what size fits best in the car. All right, so one of the things that you're going to see here on the head unit, right on the main screen, and these are things that you're going to see on all of the units, right on the main screen, is it's easy to access all the different sources. So we've got compatibility now with SiriusXM. Really happy to have them as a partner. So add that SiriusXM tuner and you can access that right here. Also, another thing is that we have CarPlay in wireless and also wired. And it's certified CarPlay and Android Auto. So that's one really important thing. So we keep up with all of the updates, all of the apps. Everything works really well. So your customers don't have to worry about updates or anything like that to iOS or Android. Everything will work seamlessly. We also have an onboard media player through the USB. So there are 2 USB inputs, one USB-A on the back. So if you choose to use a wired device for wired CarPlay or Android Auto, you can plug in there. And then we also have a USB-C port on the side, which will support 1.5 amp charging, but also media files as well. So you can have a media player, for videos, for those long road trips, or you can put high resolution audio like FLAC files up to 192K right on your USB drive, and you can play those through the head unit. You also have camera access. So we have 2 camera inputs, one for front and one for rear. And of course it will activate when you put the car in reverse, but you can also live access that by pressing that button. It'll bring the camera right up. So if you're towing a vehicle or towing a boat or something and you need to check on that while you're driving, you can do that as well. So lots of really cool features in the unit itself. And these are common features that are available on all the units.
Wow, Jay, that was a lot of standard features that you're going to find across all the Elite sizes of product, depending on whichever size you decide to go with. Let's pivot our conversation to the physicality. Let's talk about the user experience, from the tactile buttons that I can see there, and a little bit about the installation side of things, so that the installers tuning in have some insight as to the installability of these units.
So on the new head units, what you'll notice is, one, there's a really nice size volume button. What we found in our research with the product is that having a tactile button or knob is really important for the accessibility, especially on a screen like this. You want to be able to access key features like obviously the volume. And then there are hard buttons here on the bottom as well. So you've got a home button, a phone button, of course track up and down. I can access the camera directly from here. So from any source. So if I'm in the camera, I can go to map and go right to my CarPlay or Android Auto map. So the new buttons are really cool as well. Make it really easy to use. Now, another thing that's really important for the user experience is that when you're in, let's say something like Google Maps in your CarPlay, you can see that this moves really quickly. If I want to go back to my Spotify, I can load, it moves really quickly. I can go back to home. So the speed of the processor is really important. It moves very quickly. There's no delay. So when you command the unit to do something, it just does it, right? So that's something that's really important. And one of those little details that we felt like we needed to have to enhance the user experience in the car. So in addition to the user experience, we also were aware that these things need to be really easy to install. So one of the things with these floating screens is that they're all from the 9-inch, 10.1, the 12 and 14, they all sit in a single DIN chassis like this. Okay, so from an install perspective, it's really easy. You've got your basic wiring in the back, but a single chassis, a single DIN chassis, and then the screen actually just snaps right in place. Now the screen is really cool because not only does it pivot on this little ball and socket joint, so it pivots up and down and left to right, it also has an elevation change of about 3 inches. So if you're concerned about the screen maybe blocking a vent or some buttons on your dash, have no worry because we have full adjustability even when the unit is already installed in the dash. So once it's installed, you still have that ability to move the radio, and this requires some force, so you don't have to worry about it. Once it's set, it sits in there and it's solid. And one final cool feature, Ben, is that on all the floating head units, there is a ambient lighting that's available on the bottom of the screen. So when this is installed in the dash, there's an ambient light that's programmable, so you can program the different colors and you can also adjust the brightness. But it kind of gives you that little high-end look, and it lights just below the radio for that just really cosmetic high-end look and feel. So that's also a really cool feature on the new Elite head units.
So if you're just tuning in, we are covering with Jason Digos from Boss Audio, the new series of Boss Elite screens available in a multitude of different sizes, but more importantly, absolutely feature-rich with, everything from Sirius XM to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and a couple other cool nifty things that Jason just went over. But I would be remiss if I didn't spend some time talking about its performance. Yes, performance for Boss Elite radios. Jason, what can you tell me that the engineers have built into these new source units?
Well, Ben, it's one thing to just look pretty, but it's another thing to really perform, right? So some of the things that are in the new Boss Elite head unit that will help it perform very well are we've got preamp outputs. There's 3, front, rear, and subwoofer, 4 volts RMS. So really clean signal out to your amplifiers. If you're using the internal amplifier, it is a 20-watt RMS amplifier. So it's got some good power to power some speakers. But obviously when you upgrade to amplifiers, you're going to need that strong RCA output. So 4-volt RMS there. Some other really cool things that are built in that help the performance. We have onboard DSP, and that's one thing that's really important because it's easy to access. So right here on the volume knob, you have a little EUQ icon, and you click on that, and it brings us to a 13-band EQ. Now this is fully programmable. So you can customize it. It does have some presets, and all the changes happen on the fly. So as you adjust this, you'll be able to hear the changes right away. So again, that's kind of thanks to the little bit faster processor that's involved in the head unit. Some other really cool things. We've got your basic balance and fader settings on the car icon, so it's really easy to use. And then crossover settings for high pass, low pass, and also subwoofer. You can also create a bandpass filter if you needed to. One of the really important things about this is when we see people building systems, they'll start with the head unit and eventually want to add a subwoofer. So when we add a subwoofer, we can use a subwoofer filter on board, but we can also add a high pass filter to our front speakers. That way we can get a little bit more volume and let the subwoofer do its job in playing the low frequency. So this is something I really like that's on board the head unit. I have that control right here at my fingertips. Another really cool thing, Ben, time alignment. Okay, this is something that we typically see in like an outboard DSP, but having this tuning capability gives us the ability to at least give the driver a little bit nicer listening experience in the car. By adjusting this, we can center up the image, right here on the head unit. So some of these key things are really cool. Really neat thing here is we've got presets. So I can set up for a driver position, front passenger position, or what have you, and it's all built into the head unit here. So those are some really key things that really help the new Elite head units perform very well.
And that, of course, was Jason Digos, the trainer for Boss Audio Systems, walking through all the great features and benefits from the new Boss Elite series of source units. So if you're interested to find out more details on any of the new products covered today, there's a new website you want to check out. It's bosselite.com. It's right there on the screen. And if you happen to be a dealer in Canada tuning in, then make sure you hit up the folks at GemSen, as they are the distribution partner for Boss Elite here in Canada. Well, my takeaway is a big one. I am absolutely impressed with the strides that this company has made within this category. I remember a couple years back, during the pandemic, that they started coming out with these great value floating type screens. And you know what? A lot of dealers took to it and tried it out, and skepticism remained. Well, if you've watched this far into this episode, I think any skepticism that is still out there has been squashed. They have addressed all the needs and wants of the consumer by loading up these units with key features like SiriusXM, wired and wireless Android and Apple CarPlay. We're talking about EQ settings and crossovers, as well as time alignment. So if you're into that upper scale experience from a sound perspective, they've got you covered. Add to that the fact that they thought about things like the tactile buttons and even the illumination under. I mean, literally anything that I can think of, Boss Elite has addressed. Now, I'm going to circle back to what Colin said in the beginning of the show. Boss Elite is a map protected policy product. This should give you a lot of confidence from a dealer standpoint to know that this is a product that you can absolutely sell through with confidence and know that you'll be successful with. But really, the biggest takeaway, value. I don't know how they've done it, but these guys have come up with an amazing lineup of screens in all different sizes at price points I think you're going to be hard to argue and hard pressed not to be attracted to. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.